So, you've got a few different things going on here right now. One, it's called WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks started around, let's see here, started in 2006 as and this, I'm reading Wikipedia's WikiLeaks uh, profile. So, they're talking about, it started in 2006. Julian Assange is the guy that's in control of it. It's a non-profit, self-described, not-for-profit organization, and it's all about whistleblowing. There's been a few different big-time releases of information on that site. Anyway, the most important thing I'm going to talk about is the guy known as Bradley Manning. He's fellow Oklahomie. He's from small town in Oklahoma. Let's see, Crescent, Oklahoma. So anyway, he joined the military back in, he was only born in 1987. I mean, he's 24 years old. Crazy thing is, though, he has spent over 800 days in, I think it's solitary confinement, but he's in the military prison right now because he is the guy that leaked the information around 3 years ago to WikiLeaks. And some of this information was pretty, well, he's a whistleblower, so he saw some things going on that the U.S. government military was doing and is getting covered up or what have you. So he came across some information because he was in working as an intelligence analyst. Here's some of his information, and I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now. So his parents were divorced. He moved to Wells. I think he came back to Oklahoma. I'm just going to skim over a lot of that. Most important, he came back to the U.S. But back in 2005, when he was 17, he moved in with his dad in Oklahoma City. His father was living with his second wife and her child, and got a job as a developer for a software company. He was apparently happy for a time, but was let go. This is his dad, talking about his dad. Manning was... Oh, here we go. So, his boss told Washington, just locked up and would sit there, stare. The boss told him he felt nobody's been taking care of this kid in a long time. Manning was by then living as a gay man. So, this Bradley Manning is homosexual, which his father accepted, but there were problems in the relationship with his stepmother. In March 2006, Manning reportedly threatened his stepmom with a knife during an argument about his failure to get another job. That must have been his... Boy, this is something. Then he drove to Tulsa. Now that was with his dad. Drove to Tulsa to pick up in a pickup truck. His father had given him... Oh, so actually that is Bradley. Bradley Manning did have, some issues as a younger cat. Went to Tulsa in the pickup his dad gave him at first, sleeping in it. Then he moved in with a friend from school. The two of them got jobs at Incredible Pizza in April. Then Manning spent some time in Chicago before he ran out of money and again had nowhere to stay. His mother arranged for him to live with his father's sister, Deborah, a lawyer in Potomac, Maryland. Nick writes that the 15 months he spent with his aunt were the most stable in his life. He had a boyfriend. Why do they say Nick's? Nick's writes. Who's Nick? This is Wikipedia for you. It gets a little... whatever. October 2007. He decided to enlist in the Army. His father had spent weeks persuading him to consider it because he was concerned about his son's future. Manning wanted to go to college, or wanted a college education, and saw no other way of getting it. According to Ellen Nakashima, he wanted to study for a PhD in physics. So he's a smart guy. When he told his aunt about his plans, she tried to stop him, but he already signed up. He went through basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, but 6 weeks after enlisting, was sent to the discharge unit. He was allegedly being bullied, and in the opinion of another soldier there, he was having a breakdown. The soldier told The Guardian, the kid was barely 5 foot, he was a runt, so pick on him. He's crazy, pick on him. He's a faggot, pick on him. The guy took it from every side. He couldn't please anyone. Nix writes that Manning, who is used to being bullied, fought back. If the drill sergeant screamed at him, he would scream at them, to the point where they started calling him General Manning. So he obviously had quite a tough time. The decision to discharge him was revoked, and he was recycled, quote unquote, because the Army needed his IT skills. So he's a smarty guy, you know, he's got IT skills. He started basic training again in January 2008, and after graduating in April, moved to Fort Huachuca, Arizona, where he trained as an intelligence analyst, received a SCI security clearance, top secret, that stands for top secret, sensitive, compartmented information. So he's got a lot of information that they've given him clearance to. According to Nix, I still don't know who Nix is. I don't know. Anyway, this particular security clearance that he has, combined with the digitization of classified information and the government's policy of sharing it widely, gave Manning access to an unprecedented amount of material. Nix, there he is again, writes that he was reprimanded while at Fort Huachuca for posting 3 video messages to friends on YouTube. So he's a YouTube user, in which he described the inside of the sensitive compartmented information facility, that's SCIF acronym, that he was working in. So it looks like he was given some info already on YouTube before he did the big one. Moved to Fort Drum. In August 2008, he was sent to Fort Drum in Jefferson County, New York, where he joined the 2nd Brigade Combat, 10th Mountain Division, and trained for deployment to Iraq. It was while stationed there in the fall 2008 that he met Tyler Watkins, who was studying neuroscience and psychology. So he met a buddy, Tyler, studying neuroscience and psychology at Brandeis New University near Boston. Watkins was his first serious relationship, so this is a serious boyfriend thing here. And he posted happily on Facebook about it, regularly traveling 300 miles to Boston on visits. Mind you, this is where the don't ask, don't tell is still was still in act, and it was still illegal to be in the military and say you're gay. Watkins introduced him to a network of friends in the university's hacker community. He also visited Boston University's hackerspace, quote unquote, workshop, known as Builds, another quote, and met its founder, David House, the MIT researcher who was later allowed to visit him in jail. In November 2008, he gave an anonymous interview to a high school reporter during a rally in Syracuse in support of gay marriage, telling her, here's some quotes again, "I was kicked out of my home and I once lost my job. The world is not moving fast enough for us at home, work, or the battlefield. I've been living a double life. I can't make a statement. I can't be caught in an act. I hope the public support changes. I hope the public supports changes. I do hope to do that before ETS, which is expiration of term of service." That's obviously in reference to his military career. We're at 8 minutes now, but we're going to get through this. Nix writes, here's the Nix again, that Manning, and again, this is Wikipedia, this is Bradley Manning's Wikipedia. Let's see here, Nick writes that Manning would travel back to Washington, D.C. for visits where an ex-boyfriend helped him find his way around the city's vibrant gay community, introducing him to lobbyists, activists, and White House aides. Back at Fort Drum, he continued to display emotional problems, and by August 2009, had been referred to an Army mental health counselor. A friend told Nix that Manning could be emotionally fraught, describing an evening they had watched 2 movies together. A friend told Nix, we're going to figure that out pretty soon. Anyway, so they watched a couple movies, The Last King of Scotland and Dancer in the Dark, which reduced Manning to tears for hours. By September 2009, his relationship with Watkins was in trouble, and although they reconciled for a short time, it was effectively over. Deployment to Iraq. Discussion with a counselor. After several weeks, mind you, this guy's been in, like I said, over 800 days. It's crazy. It's almost 3 years of sitting in a room. I'm sure he's sitting in a room alone right now. A month later, Okay. So deployment to Iraq. Discussion with counselor. After several weeks at the Joint Readiness Training Center in Fort Polk, Louisiana, he was deployed to Forward Operating Base Hammer near Baghdad, arriving in October 2009. From his workstation there, he had access to SIPRNet. That's meaning the Secret Internet Protocol Router Network. That's a mouthful. All right. And JWICS. That means the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communications System. So back to the smarty pants. This is some very high intelligence information dealings. Two of his superiors had discussed not taking him to Iraq. It was felt he was a risk to himself and possibly others. So there were indications that he shouldn't have even gone to war. Lo and behold, he's in Baghdad, according to a statement later issued by the Army. But again, the shortage of intelligence analysts held sway, so they needed him real bad. A month later, in November 2009, he was promoted from private first class to specialist. That same month, according to his chats with Lamo, he made his first contact with WikiLeaks. So back again, November 2009, made his first contact with WikiLeaks. Shortly after, it posted 570,000 pager messages from the 9/11 attacks, which it released on November 25th. Also in November, Manning wrote to a gender counselor in the United States, said he felt female, and discussed having sex reassignment surgery. So he wanted to change his gender. The counselor told Steve Fishman of New York Magazine that it was clear Manning was in crisis, partly because of his gender confusion, and also because he was opposed to the kind of war he found himself involved in. So he is against the war, he's there. He's a homosexual, can't talk about it in the military. He was, by all accounts, unhappy and isolated. Because of the Army's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, known as DADT, and repealed in September 2011, he was not allowed to be openly gay. Though he apparently made no secret of it, his friends said he kept a fairy wand at his desk. When he told his roommate he was gay, the roommate responded by suggesting they not speak to each other. His working conditions were 14 to 15-hour night shifts in a dimly lit, secure room did not help his mental health. On December 20th, 2009, after being told he would lose 1 day off a week for being persistently late, he overturned a table in a conference room, damaging a computer that was sitting on it, and in the view of one soldier, looked as though he was about to grab a rifle from a gun rack before his arms were pinned behind his back. So they tackled him. He looked like he was about to go straight up postal. They grabbed him, they pinned him. Several witnesses to the incident believed his access to sensitive material ought to have been withdrawn at that point, right there. The following month, he began posting on Facebook that he felt alone and hopeless. Army investigators told a pre-trial hearing, see below, so we got more details, but we're already at 13 minutes, so I'm not doing that right now. I'm going to close this one. That they believed, so an Army investigators told a pre-trial hearing that they believed Manning downloaded the Iraq and Afghan war logs around this time. In January 2010, WikiLeaks tweeted on January 8th that that they had obtained encrypted videos of U.S. bomb strikes on civilians, and linked to a story about the May 2009 Grenay airstrike in Afghanistan. During the same month, Manning traveled to the United States via Germany for a 2-week holiday, arriving on January 24th, and attended a party at Boston University's Hacker Space. So he went back to Boston area. It was during this visit that Manning first lived for a few days as a woman, dressing in women's clothes, wearing a wig, and going out as a female. After his arrest, his former partner, Tyler Watkins, told Kevin Polson of Wired magazine that Manning had said during the January visit that he had found some sensitive information and was considering leaking it, a la WikiLeaks. We know the rest of the story. I'll post some more, but right now, did I say s'mores? Did you hear that? So anyway, we got more coming up. But he has been in jail for over 800 days with no trial. I'll go more later.